It is now my distinct honor to welcome a true champion of California agriculture, Karen Ross, Secretary of the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Secretary Ross has been at the helm of CDFA since 2011, a long time, she says. Appointed by Governor Jerry Brown, reappointed by Governor Gavin Newsom, with a career spanning national and international leadership. She also served as Chief of Staff under U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, and led the California Association of Wine Grape Growers for over a decade. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Secretary Ross.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad. Thanks very much. Are you going to ask me questions like last year? No. No? Okay. Do you have to sit there the whole time I'm talking?
I can leave.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's a true pleasure to follow my colleague, Secretary Crowfoot. It's a great working relationship, and I consider him a very good friend. And anytime I hear Jacob, he reminds me of Paul Souza, who is our regional director and interim director for Fish and Wildlife at the federal agency. When the two of them start talking about this work on the land, I feel like I'm sitting in church. It's like, amen, brothers, so keep up the good work. But of course, it all comes down to solutions and people who are interested in solutions and not about ideology. And it's about being practical. And it's about really understanding and valuing on the land. And Adam, it is great to see you. It's been a number of years since we were colleagues together. Really glad to see you here today. Because that's really what has driven my work, is my profound belief that so many solutions come from farmers and being on the land and facing daily challenges, which some people characterize as resiliency, magical adaptation. It's just like one foot in front of the other, get the work done, figure it out on a daily basis, regardless of what's going on in the bigger world around us. So I was asked to spend just a few minutes to talk about some of the work that we're doing, more specifically around resilience or other topics. And I was here for most of the panel that Walt and the colleagues were on, and I always feel like I'm taking full responsibility for all the angst about what the regulations in Sacramento is doing to us. And I'm going to try to be as positive as I possibly can be. Because I was reflecting on what we have been working on these past few years. And just this year, avian influenza, where we kept it out of California until September of last year, and then all of a sudden it was daily testing of 1,000 dairies, 1.5 million cows, having lost a bird population of 10 million, actually having infestations in over 750 herds. That's a gargantuan task. But it is a credit to the people that work at the Department of Food and Agriculture in very strong partnership and trusting relationship with our partners at the United States Department of Agriculture. It is the value of this infrastructure that we have invested in over decades and decades to have cutting-edge technology in our laboratory services so we can do real-time diagnostics, respond to something as quickly as possible, and do our best to eradicate it. But it also takes partnership with our dairy families and our farmers. The same thing that happens and has happened in avian influenza. Last year at this time, we were still in one of the historical outbreaks of fruit fly infestations that we'd ever had in California. I mean, we had hundreds of thousands of issues going on in fruit flies in mostly Riverside, LA, a little bit in Orange County. A year ago at this time, I would have never dreamed that we would have declared eradication. Again, it came down to partnership with our colleagues at APHIS, at the United States Department of Agriculture. It required terrific coordination and collaboration with our ag commissioners and with the farmers and ranchers, especially the farmers, and many of them were small farms who were caught into quarantines, and the impacts to their operations, to their markets, is something that we would love to find ways to avoid. I know my interim director at that time spent countless nights looking for ways to be able to avoid that. But at the end of the day, we did what we had to do. The ultimate step of that was working with friends from the Conservation Corps, thank you, Wade, of being able to disrupt that biological cycle by going in and removing tons and tons and tons of fruit from those orange trees on residential properties, double bagging it, and unfortunately having to dispose of it in landfill. I also think about Prop 12. It's finally, at least for the time being, knowing that in Washington, D.C., there are different minds about getting rid of Prop 12, which dictates the housing standards for veal and pork and laying hens. That has been a project of ours for 8 years since it was voted by a margin of 63% of the population in California that valued that animal standard for our critters on our farms, going the start and the finish, and then finally having the Supreme Court decision that allowed us to move forward on that, and really having across the country many of our livestock farmers really seeking out the certification to be in compliance to sell into the state of California. Yet to be determined what else happens. But what I really want to talk about is this idea of resiliency and sustainability, and how do we keep farmers on the land in California? Because the numbers speak for themselves in our ag census. Very mindful, another 7,500 farms were lost from California between the two most recent ag census, that the numbers of farms is one telltale sign. And yet, what I would love for more of my colleagues in Sacramento to understand, and especially in the legislative body, is over 60% of our farms in California are less than 100 acres. The totality of agriculture is quite significant. Number one ag-producing state has been since the United States Department of Agriculture has kept the records. Last year it was $59.4 billion. And yet that is just the gross value at the first point of sale into the stream of commerce. If we could find a way to carefully calculate and quantify what production costs are doing and show that in charts, we would understand the squeeze on margins that's happening and what is it that we can do something about. Obviously, it was talked about in the panel that Walt and Rob and Mike were on. Automation has to be a piece of this. When you heard the numbers that Walt flew out of his mouth, really talking about what are the cost drivers. Labor costs are a cost driver, and yet we can't grow the crops that we do in California without extensive, right now, hand labor. That's a critical, important part of it. But why can't we, in a society that values technology, embrace technology on the farm and embrace appropriate scale technology, that it's not just for the large farms and the large operations, but also appropriate scale technology, which something like a burrow can actually be an important part of the solution for small farms as well. That's a huge area. Ag tech and ag automation is a huge area that's driving the 13 regional plans that make up California Jobs First. The first one out of the box on this has been F3, which is headquartered out of Fresno with the Community Foundation there, and involves 4 of those counties right in the heart of the Central Valley. It's called F3, which is Farm, Food, and Future. It's about ag tech, not only finding those agricultural solutions that work for all scale of farmers, but also taking what California is number 1 in, which is precision manufacturing, and also creating the solutions that work for farmers of all scale, manufacturing it in the valley, and having yet another agricultural export to the world. It is about finding more ecological solutions like what we hear about up in the Sacramento River Valley. And it's about food entrepreneurship. How do we add more value to what we're growing in the valley instead of shipping it out to other places to add value? In places like Vernon, California, that's like a headquarters of all kinds of food manufacturing. F3 is an important example of what can happen when a region pulls people together with thousands of volunteers who say, this is our vision. And instead of running away from agriculture, which many people in Sacramento think of as a legacy industry, it's embracing we're excellent at something that no one else in the world can do as well as we can here. How do we build on that? How do we add value to that? How do we make sure that we're embracing the jobs of the future that come with that? And how can we do it in a way that will save that acreage, save these specialty crops that are so unique to California, and bring more value? It's an exciting proposition. But we have 13 regions that have done community-driven visioning like that make up California Jobs First. 8 of those regions have agriculture, ag production, and ag technology as a strong plank for where they want to put investment and where they see the jobs of the future. 5 of those regions have agritourism because of the growth in tourism and the ability to bring people closer to where their food is produced. Culinary tourism is still one of the fastest growing sectors of tourism in the state, and having people come into our most rural communities and seeing what happens on farms and enjoying the flavors of that. We're so proud of it when we take it overseas. There's 40 million Californians in our backyard that would love to go to all of the food festivals and drive the roads of California, let alone all the millions of visitors we welcome to our state every year. These are areas where we can really build up our regional economies, but roll them up into one blueprint for jobs first. I'm excited about what's happening with Valley Vision, which really encompasses big parts of the Sacramento Valley. And here in Sacramento, where we welcome people to America's food capital and farm to fork capital, they've made it very real because chefs and the urban areas are embracing the farm community and wanting to add value to that and showcase it to the world. I'm super excited about the RISE initiative that's on the Central Coast. I'm excited about that because, they happen to have SpaceX and a little NASA stuff going on in their backyard at Cal Poly with the Strawberry Center that was talked about. Tremendous opportunities by bringing these areas together around agriculture as the foundation for that, as an anchor part of our economy. And I'm super excited about conversion technologies when it comes to Beam Circular, headquartered out of Modesto, where they really looked at what are we strongest in. We have a great water source, we have great energy sources, we are profoundly productive, and all of that ag production creates byproducts in the good old days called waste. Those byproducts that come out of our fields and our orchards. Mel, I'm looking at you and thinking about almonds. But thinking about that byproduct stream, in addition to Modesto as headquarters for food and beverage manufacturing in the Central Valley, a very strong driver of the economy, and there's byproducts that come from that. How do we use conversion technologies and biology to repurpose that to a value stream for farmers and the local community, whether it's to renewable energy, including hydrogen, or replacements for plastics? The Berkeley Lab is a partner in all of this. This is the kind of exciting work that's happening in 13 different regions up and down the state of California, overseen by our Jobs First Council. I want you to be excited about it because it is the way of the future, and there are opportunities, and people are not trying to turn away from agriculture. They want to build on that and strengthen what we do so well in production, but they want to accelerate ag technology, and they're betting on the future of a bioeconomy and circular economy that can bring value streams back to the farm and value streams back to the communities. It's like what we heard from Jacob and the panel before us, thinking about multi-benefits and understanding that those waste streams are impacting our climate, they're coming at a cost. Can we change that cost structure to one that brings value back to the farm? I got really off on that because I'm excited about something that's so positive, and I hope that you're inspired by it as well. But the work that we have done on climate adaptation, through the Department of Food and Agriculture in my tenure now, we have invested over $695 million in grants to farmers and to technical assistance providers to be able to adapt to our changing climate. Understanding a hotter, drier future comes with 10% less available water to what we're doing, and investing in on-farm solutions to allow us to continue farming. our SWEEP program, which is our on-farm water use efficiency program, over $170 million invested, almost $200 million invested in healthy soils. Both of those are water savings, 25,000 gallons of water for every bit of organic matter that we can invest in those soils. And our on-farm water use efficiency program is saving about 1.5 million acre-feet of water on the projects that we put in place, let alone reducing energy costs and lowering our greenhouse gas emissions. What the dairy farmers have done on methane emission reductions with investments from the state of California, over $327 million going into dairy digesters, alternative manure management practices, and right now we're working with the California Dairy Research Foundation, implementing the grant that they received from USDA under the old Climate Smart Commodities Partnership Program, now the Advancing Markets Program. Almost $77 million additional funding will be invested in our dairy farms, really doing some amazing work that are keeping our dairy farms viable, hopefully profitable, and sustainable, and really meeting the moment of creating renewable energy. And we know those methane digesters and the technology that Bar 20, as an example, is using, sending that electricity, going through fuel cells, the first dairy to be producing hydrogen for city buses out of Fresno. That's an exciting circular economy story that's like, let's hear it for the cows. I know I could talk all day, but the last thing I want to talk about is our Farm to School program, because I see this as not only a huge ally to the current emphasis on Make America Healthy Again. This is about investing in local farms, many of them small farms, using the power of procurement, improving the health and the deliciousness of the food that's being served to our children, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or after-school snacks, but setting lifestyle habits for good nutrition that will avoid the $5 trillion in annual costs we spend on chronic diseases in the United States of America. Think about the opportunities we have to really establish healthy eating habits that improve health outcomes for students for the rest of their lives, and introducing them to the experiential learning of where my food comes from, how to grow it, how to prepare it. That's also a pipeline to our future workforce. The last thing I wanted to close with is we are investing tremendous dollars in workforce development, understanding that as technology is developed on the farm, we have an incumbent workforce that we could be creating the jobs of the future for. If we wait for the technology to be created, they won't be prepared to actually use it, maintain it, and keep it going, and actually helping us adapt that technology. So there's tremendous efforts in partnership with Western growers, which has already been called out today, great partnerships, also creating apprenticeships. Our specialty crop workforce development dollars are also going through the Agricultural Council and the California Farm Worker Foundation. Creating partnerships with labor is the answer to getting, it's not Cal-OSHA, it is the OSHA board that is an independent entity that is right now our barrier to the autonomous tractors being used in our fields. So I'm sorry I didn't leave time for questions.
It happens.
But you know, I don't want to ruin your lunch anymore. Right. Okay? I also want to say I'm really pleased that Aubrey Betancourt will be here. I think it's so exciting, and I'm so thrilled that we have a Californian at NRCS. And I might call out the first woman to head up NRCS. That's pretty cool too, don't you think? Thanks for your attention. Do you want me to take any questions or not? There's a red light flashing.